I want to start by saying that I'm not someone who scares easily. I grew up with 3 older brothers. I've worked graveyard shifts at gas stations. And I've always been the person in the friend group who laughs at jump scares in horror movies. I tell you this because what I'm about to describe shook me in a way that took months to work through. And I want you to understand that it's not because I'm dramatic. I was 19 when I started babysitting for a woman named Renee. She had 2 kids, a 9-year-old boy named Marcus and a 6-year-old girl named Lily. They lived in a quiet suburban neighborhood, about 15 minutes from my apartment, in one of those subdivisions where every house looks almost identical and the streets are wide and empty after dark. Renee was a nurse working evening shifts at a hospital across town, so I'd arrive around 5 and stay until she got home, usually sometime between 11 and midnight. Marcus was a quiet, serious kid who liked building things with Legos and reading graphic novels. Lily was the opposite, loud, imaginative, constantly inventing games that somehow always ended with me chasing her around the house. I liked both of them. I'd been working for Renee for about 4 months, and genuinely felt comfortable there. The night it happened was a Wednesday in late October. Not Halloween, not that it would matter. But I mention it because the nights had gotten longer and darker earlier, and the neighborhood always felt a little more isolated once the sun went down in autumn. I'd made the kids grilled cheese for dinner, helped Lily through a bath, and was getting her settled when Marcus said something I initially brushed off. There was a man looking in the backyard window earlier. I looked up from tucking Lily's blanket. "What do you mean?" He shrugged. That practiced 9-year-old shrug that means they're trying to seem unbothered. "When you were giving Lily her bath, I was in the living room and thought I saw someone standing on the back porch, looking through the glass." I asked if he was sure, and he said he wasn't. Said it was dark and it might have been his own reflection. I told him it probably was, locked the back sliding door, which I had assumed was already locked, and tried to move on. But I checked that door twice more before I put Marcus to bed at 9:30. By 10 o'clock, I was alone on the couch, television on low, and I was starting to feel that particular kind of quiet that settles into a house after kids fall asleep. The kind of quiet where you start noticing sounds you didn't notice before. The refrigerator humming, the occasional creak from upstairs, and then something else. It was subtle at first, a sound I couldn't immediately categorize. Not a creak, not the house settling, something more deliberate. Like the slow, careful weight of footsteps trying very hard not to be footsteps, coming from the direction of the kitchen. I muted the television. Nothing. Silence. I told myself it was the fridge. I unmuted the TV. It happened again 10 minutes later, and this time I was certain it wasn't the fridge. It had rhythm. It had intention. I sat completely still on the couch and stared at the darkened hallway leading to the kitchen, and I felt something shift in my chest. That animal awareness, the part of your brain that predates language, telling you something is wrong. I got up and turned on the hallway light. The kitchen was empty, but the stool at the kitchen island was pulled out. Not far, maybe 8 inches. I was almost certain it had been pushed in when I made dinner. I always push the stools back in. It was a compulsive habit of mine. Almost certain isn't the same as certain, though, so I talked myself down. I went back to the couch. Then I noticed the glass. There was a glass on the counter near the sink, a clear drinking glass with maybe 2 inches of water in it. I hadn't poured that glass. I had given the kids juice with dinner, and I had been drinking from a water bottle I brought with me. I stood there staring at it for what felt like a long time, and I could feel my own heartbeat in my throat. I called Renee. She picked up on the 3rd ring, and I kept my voice low and even. I told her what Marcus had said, what I'd heard, the stool and the glass. There was a pause on her end that lasted too long. Then she said, "Is the back door locked right now?" I said yes. She said, "Check the garage." I asked her why, and she said her ex-husband, Marcus's father, not Lily's, the one she left 2 years ago and had a restraining order against, Had a garage door code she'd never gotten around to changing. She said she'd been getting hang-up calls from blocked numbers all week and hadn't thought much of it. She was speaking faster now. I was already moving toward the interior garage door, and she told me not to open it, to take the kids out through the front door and go to a neighbor's house and call 911. I didn't make it to the garage door, because as I turned toward the hallway, I heard the door to the garage click. Not open, just the latch releasing, as though someone on the other side had their hand on the knob and had just decided to stop. I dropped the phone and I moved. I don't fully remember getting up the stairs. I remember grabbing Marcus from his bed and being surprised by how awake he was, like some part of him was waiting. I got Lily up, got both of them out the front door, left it wide open behind us, and ran 3 houses down to a neighbor I recognized. We were inside a stranger's kitchen when we heard Renee's front door slam shut from down the street. The police came. Renee came 40 minutes later, still in her scrubs. And I remember her hugging the kids in the neighbor's driveway while 2 officers walked through her house with flashlights. They found the water glass. They found scuff marks near the garage that suggested someone had been standing in that narrow space between the car and the wall for some time. One of the officers told me, quietly, that whoever was in there had been in there for a while. I thought about all the sounds I dismissed, all the minutes I'd sat 10 feet from that garage door, watching television, not knowing. They never confirmed it was Renee's ex. No cameras, no prints that meant anything. He denied it. The restraining order was reviewed and strengthened, for whatever that's worth. What I keep coming back to, even now, is Marcus. He saw someone at that back window and told me, clearly, calmly. The way a 9-year-old has already learned to manage fear tells an adult something important. And I locked the door and changed the subject. He knew something was wrong before I did. He'd probably known something was wrong for much longer than that. I don't babysit anymore. I don't say that to be dramatic. I just don't think I'm suited for it. For that particular responsibility of being the last line of protection for someone else's children in a house that isn't mine, in a situation I don't fully understand. Some quiet houses aren't empty. That's the thing nobody tells you until you've already learned it.